As results day gets closer and closer, I've had parents of A-level students and also A-level students themselves reach out to me filled with nerves. Whether you're watching this video a few days before your A-level results are out, or if it's the night before, or even if it's the morning of, I'm here to give you some assistance. There's an age-old adage which is knowledge is power, and knowing what you're going to do in each scenario, whether it's that you've actually landed your dream university because you've aced your A-level results and it's all in hand, or actually if you are in the situation whereby you haven't actually met the minimum requirements for your university, there is a plan. And there is a third avenue. What if you've actually gone through the whole rigmarole and have actual thoughts about university not being quite the right fit for you, whether that's because you don't want to take on the extortionate amount of student loan, or there's other practical ways that you wish to learn in. I'm here to give you the insider tips on how this all works. As a lot of you know, I'm an ex-recruiter who's worked at the likes of Accenture and other organisations whereby I've helped them with their recruitment, especially their early talent recruitment. And I'm here to give you the advice that I've shared for a number of years with candidates when it comes to A-level results and getting them into the world of employment. So a bit of housekeeping. On the morning of your A-level results, often UCAS track will showcase whether you've actually got into the university of your choices. If you're wanting to know what your actual grades are, you'll need to go into your school or college to ascertain them. So if you get an update from UCAS but don't actually have the physical grades, I would say don't panic, you're able to get them at your educational centre of choice, whether that be your sixth form or college, etc. So as I said at the start of the video, there are 3 avenues that we'll explore in this video. The first being the dream situation. So in this instance, you've actually got the grades and you've got into your university of choice. So this could be your first, second choice. So make sure you're really diligent about which of the organisations you've got into, and then start getting yourself prepped up. If you haven't sorted out your student loan, etc., I would advise you to start looking into that. The second thing that I would advise you to do once you have got your offer is to make sure you keep an eye out from your university. Usually universities are super busy, so it's usually 3 to 4 days, sometimes 5 to 7 working days before they reach out to you about how to enroll. They'll want to see confirmation of your grades, they'll want to see details of your passport, etc. So making sure that you have that all in hand on the back end and keeping an eye out on that email will be really critical in making sure that you have a smooth one at making sure that your onboarding is done as smooth as possible. The third thing that I want to talk about, which is not often addressed, is what if you've done better than your predicted grades or what you thought, and you're actually thinking, can I get into a different organisation that might be ranking a bit higher for my course? Now, there used to be a system whereby you can actually go onto UCAS and say adjustments, which has actually now changed. This is a slightly more risky strategy, which is that you need to call the institution that you want to get into, the university, say you want to get into a UCL or an LSE, for example, and you would need to give them a ring and tell them your grades to see if there are any openings within their organisation for the course that you want to go to. So you'd actually have to make sure that you go in through the clearing system. Now, from a practical standpoint, that would mean that you have to reject your offer in UCAS and then go into clearing. I wouldn't advise you to do this unless you've spoken to the organisation and the departments there that you want to go into have actually told you decisively that they would accept you with the grades that you've got. As I say, this is a bit of a risky situation, so what I would say is to talk to your schools or talk to the universities directly. A lot of the times, if you haven't been given the correct predictive grade, or say your lack of performance in your mock exams, you may be in this situation, so it's always worth trying to push for it during clearing. The second avenue is what I'm often contacted about. It's when you haven't actually got your grades that you were predicted, and what do you do in that instance? Now, please remain calm. Now, I know it might feel like your world is ending and it seems really scary and daunting, especially as you've got friends and family members that are celebrating because they've got the grades that they've wanted. I want to tell you, a lot of people go through clearing, a lot more than you would actually know. So it's nothing to panic about. And it's definitely not a judgment on your capability. It may be that you've had a difficult year or that you're not great at sitting exams. This is by no means a reflection of your intelligence and your capability to succeed at university. That being said, what we can do is make sure that this opportunity is turned around as efficiently as possible. Now at 8:03 a.m, you don't need to go into panic mode. Let me walk you through what you can do calmly. The main thing that you need to do is have a strategy and make sure that you've got a plan in place to deal with it. Number one thing that I would do is check the track system anyway, because despite what the university has asked for, they might actually end up accepting you, especially if you've been a few grades out. Sometimes universities decide to be a bit more flexible, especially if they haven't had a large cohort, or you might have interviewed for them really well and that you may have stood out there. Before you go into panic mode, just make sure that you check whether you've got into your university of choice or not. The second thing I would do, if you haven't actually got in, then I would say remain calm. On a practical basis, I would say to take some long, deep breaths in and out to make sure that you're not worrying. Just take 15 minutes for yourself to prepare yourself. Don't just launch in and just willy-nilly call the university that you wanted to get into your first or second choice. I would say be really strategic. And a lot of these things you can do ahead of time. I'm actually putting this video out to you ahead of schedule so that you actually can take some time to get organized about what it is that you can do. So feel free to make sure that you have a fallback plan in place so that you are well prepared on the day of your results. I would look at some of the alternative universities you're happy to go to and the courses that they are offering that really spark the light in you. Don't willy-nilly just go for any course. Say you want to do medicine but you haven't got the grades. Would you be happy doing something like biomedicine and taking the time out to revisit some of the topics that you need a bit of strengthening in? So think about what the alternatives would look like and go for things that genuinely spark the light in you. The second thing I would do is get the clearing hotline for the universities that you'd happily accept. Sometimes they have multi-departmental numbers and they do publish that a few days ahead of results day. So keep an eye out on that. If not, they should be able to publish them on the morning of the results day. The third thing people often ask me about is what is it like going through clearing? Now, I've worked in the clearing department before whilst I was at the University of Westminster, and what I would say is it's like a mini interview, not in the sense that there's going to be extensive questions, but actually what we want to ask you for is your UCAS ID, so make sure that you have that in hand, what the grades that you've actually achieved are. Sometimes they might ask which other organisations you've actually applied for and got rejected from, because they want to have that as a bit of intel on their competitors. So have that to hand. But the other thing that is really important is why that university and why you want that course. Because what universities don't want is loads of candidates coming into them because you could only get into them with the grades. They really want to know that you have a passion, because universities are also judged on the grades that their candidates get. So showing that you have a genuine interest in the course and attending that university is critical. This is why I say, even if you don't have the hotline numbers, you can actually prepare a couple of lines about why it is that you want to do that very course at that university. Look at some of the modules that they teach at that university. Look into the background of that university. It could be that you've heard things from a cousin or a friend about their university experience at large. Have a few sentences, nothing more than 6 or 7 lines, but you've got that to hand on the day. If you're watching this on the day of your results, then what I would say is, if you're really nervous, go into ChatGPT or Claude AI and speak into each of the LLMs, the large language models, and say you've been rejected by your universities of choice and you want to get into X university for this and this reason. This is the course that you want to do. These are the reasons that you want to give. Can you help me strengthen my case for this university, or give me feedback on what I'm about to say, and just role play it. The most important thing is that you repeat out loud the sentences that you want to say so that it sounds more fluid. You don't want to be saying these lines out for the first time over the phone. It's such a stressful period as it is. So if you practice this by recording yourself on video or over voice note and then hearing yourself will actually mean that when it comes to having the conversation, you're just a lot more comfortable. Humans are better at doing things that we've practiced, so getting that practice in is always critical. The other thing that I want to highlight about the advice that I've just given is making sure that you go for courses and universities that excite you. Please remember that this is a lot of investment from a time perspective, from a money perspective, from an energy perspective. So you really want to go for those organizations that really light you up and that you know that you're going to have a good time in, but also really learn and develop yourself in. So don't feel pressured to just pick any university because they're there on the clearing database. The other area that I wanted to talk about is looking at your grades. Now, by no means is your grade a reflection of your worth or who you are. A lot of times we take these things really personally, but actually there are things that are outside of your control. Maybe you've had a really difficult year, or you've had a health problem, or you're not great at taking exams because it's such a high anxiety provoking environment and you haven't been able to get the support that you need to be able to deal with that. So really think back to the year that you've had, or the last 2 years that you've had, and see whether it's the school environment that's not been quite right for you, or whether it's been situations out of your hand that have really impacted your wellness, your well-being, and your capacity to deal with a stressful thing like taking your A-levels. I actually found that the jump with GCSEs to A-level much harder than I did from A-level to university. It is a deeply challenging period. So please don't think that if you've struggled over the last year or two that it's by any means diminishing your worth or your talents. It's a really tricky period. So think about that. The other thing that I would think about is, have I been pressured by family or society or friends to take this course? A lot of the times people do really well in things that they're passionate about, irrespective of what's going on in their life. If you're someone who enjoys sports and you want to get into sports science, or you're someone who enjoys writing and you want to get into creative writing, a lot of the times people will turn to their passions and areas of interest when things go difficult. And that's not to say that's a blanket statement. In every situation, everyone deals with stress in different ways. But what I am here to say is this an area that you want to spend 3 years in, or have you been influenced by culture, or, as I say, societal pressures, or friends or family members who mean the best for you, but sometimes that pressure to live up to expectations can encourage you to do things that might not necessarily be in alignment with who you truly are and your deepest passions. So making sure that you identify that is critical. If you find that actually the course that you've applied for isn't in alignment with your passion, then maybe use your grades to a certain extent as evidence to have a deeper conversations with your parents or guardians or folks that have encouraged you to go down a certain path, to say, actually, I don't think I'm quite ready to embark on X and Y course, and I would much rather do Y, because you'll definitely do better in a course that you really are passionate about and that you're interested in, and not just a course that might look good to your colleagues and peers that you might not even be in touch with in 10 years' time. The third avenue that I wanted to talk about, which isn't frequently spoken about at schools or universities or anywhere in that interim gap, is thinking about whether university in and of itself being the right fit for you. Nowadays, there are so many options that you can do outside of university that you might want to think about. The traditional route would be going into doing a law degree at a university. But now, for example, a lot of big law firms do something called solicitor apprenticeships, which mean that the company pays for half of your degree or thereabouts, and the UK government will subsidise the other half. So you're actually learning and earning at the same time. Now, what I will say in advocacy of these programs is that you come out with less student debt, but you still get the same rigour that you would at a university, etc. And the other thing is, a lot of times when you're in your early years of employment, people are looking for years of experience. They want to know that you know how to write an email, that you know the basics of your field. So by getting yourselves in these doors, very early doors, where you have the flexibility, where you can work a couple of extra hours because you have the time and the energy to, will really set you apart. The other thing is, the UK industry and Europe at large still relies on networks. The longer you're in the work environment, the more you're able to network. So making sure that you're getting your foot in the door in these spaces is actually a really good way for you to be able to make sure that you can have really good progression within your working life without being saddled with a lot of debt. So what I would also do in this period is also have a look at degree apprenticeship, or look at other apprenticeships within the space that you want to get into, especially within the digital and tech field. A lot of companies like Accenture will run these programs, and some of the time these apprenticeships won't even be looking at grades. What they're looking for is someone's appetite to learn, to work hard, to be able to flourish within these environments. So being confident, being a strong team player, being able to be a self-starter, other things that they're looking for. So taking a year out whilst you're figuring things out is not necessarily a bad thing, because then you can take the time to apply for these companies, really prepare for those interviews, because often they're 1 or 2 or even 3 stages long. So you want to be able to get yourself in the best possible mindset to interview really well. And sometimes you need the 1 or 2 interviews to really give you the head start in your 3rd and 4th interview, so that you can get into the flow state of it. So I would recommend, if you are open to looking at alternatives outside university, this could actually be the blessing that you didn't know. Other thing that I would also say is thinking about your grades. If you have had a tough year, you might not necessarily have performed well in your exams for personal reasons, or you're just not great at sitting exams, you can actually take a year out to, I would advise you to do mock exams, revisit those topics that you really struggled with, and take the time out to relearn things and sit your exams again. There are a lot of people that I strongly admire, like Grace Beverly, for example. I don't think she necessarily resat her exams, but she took a year out and went into the working world. And that's where she had a lot of ideas. Is the working world where I want to even be? So getting some work experience whilst you do your exams again can actually really be a benefit in terms of you getting real world experience, but also taking the time out to actually understand your craft and the topics that are really critical for you to have as a foundation for your degree.
Like every single thing that I achieved that was impressive, I never got the first time. Like it was never so you see Oxford, I didn't get in the first time. Like I tried twice. Same with many different, like literally every single thing I have that's impressive that I've done was not achieved the first time. I was never particularly good at things, and so was constantly told that over and over. It was kind of like, yeah, like fine. And so like for my GCSEs, for example, I was predicted I was predicted like, I don't know, like in some of the subjects I really loved and thought, you know, I would do well at. I remember coming home with my predicted grades, which were like very different from what my older sisters had got. And it was kind of a handful of C's and some B's here and there and like all of that. And I just remember being like, oh, like
This is so refreshing to hear. No, guys, I'm so, like, this is so refreshing to hear.
Well, for some people, like, as in, I don't know. I'm always resistant to say these things because I think everything's so relative. Because obviously, for some people, that would be like, you know, as in like that wouldn't be something that they'd be upset about or whatever. But I just remember like that was constantly the narrative that was around me. It was just like, that's not her lane. And so like I remember, for example, when I came home with those predicted grades, like I doubled down and like wrote myself this like insane revision schedule and realized that I didn't learn very well from the tuition method I was receiving. Like I just didn't learn by rote. Like I just wasn't good at that. So like got all the textbooks, set myself different, like literally had it on a calendar on my wall of like, this day we're going through this chapter, this day we're going through this chapter, this day we're going through this chapter, printed off all the past exams, like all of this. Went through that. That was my first example after GCSEs. Like I remember coming out of that and I remember getting the results and I got like an award for getting the highest in my school. And I just remember being like, what the fuck? Like I was like explicitly like they called my parents into meeting and were just like, this is not where we'd expect it to maybe be, but this is what we're expecting for her. And I think from that point, I started to like really put 2 and 2 together of like, okay,
that makes sense.
When you're stressed about things and when things feel that far out of your control, you are only a certain level of preparation away from making that reality different.
So So don't feel peer pressured because your friends or your cousins or relatives are all telling you to go to university quickly and get it done. Make sure that you're going to your first or second choice of university if that's what you really want and there aren't other alternatives that you like within the clearing space. So whatever results day holds for you tomorrow, just have a plan. If things go great and swimmingly and you get your grades, well done, congratulations, go get your place confirmed and go out and celebrate. If it doesn't, then have the clearing options in mind. Make sure that you're calm and collected when you have those conversations, and genuinely only go for places that genuinely light you up. If there isn't anything like that, then don't be afraid to retake your A-levels if that's what you want, or potentially explore other options that might be better suited to your learning style and your progression style. And if that means having a difficult conversation with a family member or relative about you wanting to get into the world of work or being a practical person, then maybe this is your chance to have it. And if there's anything that I'm going to depart with you, these exams are just exams. It's not a reflection of your self-worth or your capability or your aptitude to perform. Actually, a lot of the times people say those that don't get things that they want the first time, they build a sense of resilience and hard-working nature that ends up making them really good business leaders down the line. So just think this is your resilience armor being made. Although this seems like a big deal at this moment, you've got your entire future in front of you, so don't let the pressure get to you. You've got options, you've always got options, and that's what this channel has always been about, that you achieve your potential and ensuring that you do things that you're passionate about and that you really want to, rather than succumbing to the peer pressure and the social pressures around you. If you found this useful, please do give me a like and drop in the comment section any of the tips that you're going to follow through with. If you know there's someone who's nervous about results day and is wondering what to do, etc., and worried that they're not going to get the grades, please do forward on to them, especially if you are a parent or guardian watching this and your children might benefit from this. Please do forward on to them. I look forward to seeing you on the next video, and I hope to see some success stories down here in the comment section or over on my LinkedIn, Pyramid View, or over on my TikTok. I will see you guys on the next one. Good luck.